Good morning, everyone. Pam Jacobson here. For those of you who don't know me, I am the owner of the Healing Sanctuary. We are a functional medicine, wellness-focused company, and I'm also the Chief Wellness Officer for a beautiful passion project of mine, a company called Level 10 Health, so check them out. You can reach me through either of those venues, websites, thehealingsanctuaryoc.com or level10health.com. You can reach out to me through email at frontdesk@thehealingsanctuaryoc.com. You can also call the office 714-730-2233, and that will direct you to various ways for me to get your message. I work with clients all over the country and actually even have some clients internationally, so it doesn't matter where you're watching this from. I am more than happy to work with you to kind of sort out your health and help you optimize that for better aging and so forth. So just a little bit of housekeeping. I'm not a physician and I'm not your physician, so I'm not here to give treatment advice or medical advice, but I am here to educate you on optimizing your health to maximize performance in all areas of your life. And I think for most of us, top of mind right now is protecting ourselves in this COVID pandemic situation, and what are the things that we can do to secure our immune health. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And really, the number one most important thing that you can do, we've talked so far about nutrients and various supplements that you can take. We've talked about managing stress and some other things, but really top of the list is sleep. And I've been in clinical practice for over 20 years, and I have to say that probably upwards of 90% of the people that come to see me as a patient have an issue with their sleep. And there's many factors that go into having good sleep. And so we'll talk today about some of the baseline things that you can do to improve your sleep, to improve the quality and depth of your sleep. And for those of you who can honestly say at the end of this, after a couple of weeks, that you've been very diligent with the recommendations that I've made, yet you continue to struggle, at that point, then you really should be working with somebody in the functional medicine world, such as myself, that could kind of dive a little bit deeper into that to see what might be going on, whether it's hormone imbalances or other nutritional imbalances. But what I can say is, if you take this information to heart, and you are able to really implement this within really relatively short order, you should see some improvements in your sleep. So what we're going to talk about are the 5 things that you need to know that are related to getting a really good deep night's sleep. But let's first talk about why that's even important, right? Why do we need to sleep? And aside from what Matthew Walker has to say in his amazing book, I'm going to distill it down basically into one sentence. Sleep is the only time that your body is able to repair itself and that your immune system is able to repair and reboot. So during the day when we're awake and we're utilizing all of our systems, we are not able to be in repair mode. That happens when we're sleeping. So I kind of think of it like, it would be like you need to get your oil changed, and so you drive into the maintenance garage and you expect them to be able to do all the work on your car while you're sitting in there with it running and you're anxious to get going, right? So sleep is a really important thing that we all need to do every single 24-hour period, and we need to do it long enough, and it needs to be done or needs to be in a deep enough state that we actually affect that repair. So number one, you have to prepare and plan for sleep, believe it or not. It needs to be on your calendar, just like your meetings are, just like your plans to go out to dinner with friends. Well, maybe someday when this is all over with. But essentially, you have to plan ahead. So literally taking out a schedule on, say, Sunday morning, that's usually when I do most of my prep and plan for my following week. And even during this crisis when we're all sheltering at home, now more than ever, we need the boundaries of scheduling. Otherwise, everything just flows into one another. And I personally, I don't know about all of you, but I personally have struggled with my bedtime routine, right? Because before it was really simple. I had to get up at 5:30 in the morning. So I knew that I would have to get to bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock to get my 7.5, 8 hours of sleep a night. And that was easy. But now that my schedule is, very fluid and moving around, I have found, getting that plan in place, that preparation in place for bed has been a little more challenging. So it is a matter of, using some tools to help remind you of what time you want to go to bed. And that starts with knowing what time you have to get up. So prep and plan is looking ahead at your week. What time do I need to be up on Tuesday morning should dictate what time I will go to bed on Monday night. And you need to, probably until it becomes more routine for you or more of a habit, use tools like your sleep time reminder. If you have an iPhone, there's, you can set a timer to go off for you roughly an hour, hour and a half before bed so that you can start to prepare. But essentially, the number one most important thing that you can do to guarantee sleep is to actually plan for it. So that seems like that's a simple concept, but it's actually, I think, one of the more challenging things. So prep and plan for sleep, use a calendar, schedule it like a meeting, set a timer to remind yourself. Number two is really the amount of time, right? So many of us there's a lot of argument about that, but if you really look at the science behind sleep, honestly, for the body to repair, for the brain, there's a big flush that goes on in the brain at night. You really have to be in bed asleep for about 8 hours. So I would say, the absolute minimum would be 7, but for most of us, 8 hours is really optimal. So when you're prepping and planning, you need to be planning for 8 hours of sleep time. The third issue would be sleep hygiene. And I think this is where it falls apart for a lot of us, right? We go through our day and it flows right into our evening, right? We might stop and have our dinner meal, then get right back on the laptop, right back to work, or checking emails or on Facebook, or, we're very, very enmeshed with our electronics. For those of us that might not be doing electronics, we're watching crime dramas and all kinds of crazy stuff on television. Or perhaps this is the time of night that you end up in a dramatic conversation with a family member. So you really have to start to unwind the nervous system. It's not really practical to think that you could go from your sleeping, active mind day right into relaxation to go to sleep. So it's called sleep hygiene. And you need about 45 minutes to an hour before bedtime. So let's back up. If I prepped and planned, I know I need 8 hours. I know I need to be in bed by 10. I need to be ready to go to sleep by 10 p.m. to get my 8 hours. I'm going to have to start getting ready at about 9:15, 9 o'clock. And during that time is the time when we should turn off all our electronics. We should, if we're going to watch television, make it something light, funny, not very thought-provoking, certainly not dramatic. I would abstain from any kind of drama conversation and really use the time to engage in relaxation techniques or relaxation activity. Nothing that's really active for the mind, and that includes reading. A lot of people will read at night when they go to bed, but they end up reading a crime novel or something that's full of drama, and it's not a good idea. Again, you don't want to engage the brain or even the physical body in a big way. So some of the sleep hygiene or calming activities might be a warm bath or some light stretching or light yoga. You can certainly use this time for things like journaling, listening to relaxing music. There's anything that makes you feel calm and relaxed is a good activity for you in that 45-minute to hour before bed. So think of it in terms of calming activities. You can meditate, you can do biofeedback. There's a number of those types of things that you could do as well. So that sleep hygiene, I cannot impress upon you the importance of that. Good morning, Trevor. Trevor says he recently detoxed caffeine and find his sleep is improved, but also energy's better when waking up. What do I think about the relationship between caffeine and sleep? It's huge, guys. I mean, caffeine pushes cortisol. There's a couple of hormones that are involved in sleep. Cortisol and melatonin create what we call the circadian rhythm or the sleeping waking cycle. So cortisol is a stress hormone, but it's also, we call it the wake up hormone. It's the hormone that's the highest in the morning when we wake up. It's what, gets us to open our eyes when the light starts shining and get up and get moving for our day. And then as the day wanes and it starts to become dark, another hormone that we make in our brain called melatonin takes over at that point and should begin to settle us down and help us stay asleep at night. Now, it's a very sensitive rhythm and easily messed up. And I would say for most of the at least American culture, but probably the world right now, given the stress that we're all under, this is probably a rhythm that's not quite working for most of us right now. Caffeine raises cortisol, and depending on what time of the day you're consuming your caffeine, it can affect that cortisol melatonin balance. So you do need to be careful. Some of us genetically are more sensitive to the ability to actually metabolize caffeine from the body. So each of you individually kind of have to figure this out on your own. But if you're somebody that has trouble falling asleep or staying asleep through the night and you drink, 10 cups of coffee during the day, that could be a problem. So I would say that part of, good sleep, I don't know who coined this phrase, one of the professors at one of my trainings said, the ability to get good sleep starts with what you did when you woke up the day before. And that's really true, right? If I wake up today and I fill my day full of stress and I eat a crappy diet and I don't hydrate well and I don't move my body at all, and then I do none of the sleep preparation things that we're talking about today, and on top of that, I drink a pot of coffee, I'm not likely going to have very good sleep. So extremely important to look at yourself individually, but to consider that things like caffeine can absolutely impact the quality of sleep. Caffeine pushes cortisol up like stress would, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if it's impacting your sleep, it's going to create other issues for you. So hope that answers your question, Trevor. So anyway, sleep hygiene, really critical, 45 minutes to an hour, calming activities, the things that work for you to feel like the nervous system's calming. Then environment, right? So most of us do not really think about the sleep environment, and it is really, really important. The hormone melatonin begins to deploy itself in the dark, so when light starts to fade. So it's very important that your sleep environment be dark. If there's any light filtration into the room, that will disturb the sleep, the depth of the sleep. It can be a reason why you would wake up in the middle of the night. And so everything you can do to make the room dark, you can use eye shades. I mean, there's all kinds of hacks for people who are in environments, live in cities, or have issues around things like light. Quiet, it's very important that the space that you're sleeping in be quiet. You can use, earplugs. I use something called Bose Sleep Buds, which I really like a lot. It's more of a noise masking versus earplugs, which are kind of noise blocking. But it's really important that the room be quiet. If you've got a snoring partner, and if you have animals, or you've got children, you're going to have to maybe work through some strategies together to figure out how, because it's going to be a sleep interruption for everybody, not just you. So the room needs to be quiet, and it also needs to be cool. And Matt Walker talks a lot about this in his book, the core temperature of the body. If it's not at an optimal place, that will disturb sleep. And for many of you, my counterparts in the menopausal time frame of life right now can really struggle with some core body temperature issues. So if keeping the room cool and using other devices like chili pads, and there's a number of things on the market for menopausal women or people who are too warm at night, that can be helpful. But if you do all of these things again and you continue to struggle, reach out to me and I'll do my best to help you figure that out. But essentially, core temperature, Matt says in his book that you need to keep your space at about 68 degrees, which, for a lot of us sounds like that's pretty chilly. But it's not about you feeling cold. It's about the environment being cool. You can certainly cover up and keep yourself warm. So sleep environment, really important. Needs to be cool, needs to be dark, needs to be quiet. And then number 5, what are some of the things that you could do to, aside from prepping and planning and starting to wind down that hour before bed and making sure your sleep environment is adequate, allowing for 8 hours of sleep, there are some things that you could do that can help mitigate some of the issues that you might be having. And I'm going to give you the list of those. There would be no danger in you actually incorporating all of them. So, but you won't know which is working and not working. So I would say maybe try one thing at a time over a period of 4 or 5 nights, and you may hit on the thing that's the biggest driver behind the issue with you either falling asleep, staying asleep, or both of those things. So I would say number one, a sleep meditation at night. If you haven't used your hour before bed to do meditation, it's not a bad idea when you get into bed to turn on a sleep meditation, sleep-specific meditation. Most of the meditation apps will have something like that available. And just let yourself fall asleep to that, right? It's a way to unfocus the mind or refocus it from thoughts of the day or concerns about work or whatever might be going on for you. You don't have to stay awake and listen to it. Your brain still gets the information. So I'm a big, big proponent of sleep meditations. I do one most nights, even though I meditate at other times during the day. I find that it not only gets me to sleep faster, but it does seem to impact the depth of my sleep and the ability for me to stay asleep. For those of you that have a consistent waking up time in the middle of the night between, say, 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., this can oftentimes be an issue with blood sugar. And the brain knows that you're asleep, so rather than getting you up to eat, it will raise cortisol to help deal with the blood sugar change. So what you can do is, and the reason why someone's blood sugar might be low at night is that maybe it's been many hours. They ate dinner at 6 and haven't eaten since then and went to bed at 10 or 11. So it could be, that could be a reason why, or you may be a person who's really struggling with blood sugar control to begin with. And again, that's an issue that I can help you deal with offline. But one thing that you can try that I've had a great deal of success with in my patients that are waking because of a blood sugar change is to have a very small, so I don't want you to think of this as a snack or a treat. This is just a very small, about 30 minutes before or during that kind of preparation time for bed, a fat protein, small snack at that time, fat protein only. So this would be like a tablespoon of almond butter, or maybe 5 almonds, or if you had the chicken left over that you had at dinner, 2 bites. So this is not, we don't want to get the digestive system awake and working. What we want is a fat protein snack that helps to stabilize blood sugar going into sleep. So that's something that can be helpful for many of us, especially if it's a blood sugar reason that gets us up in the middle of the night. Melatonin. So I talked about melatonin a few minutes ago. It's a hormone. It's made in the brain. Super important for sleep. It is easily dysregulated, and the older we are, the less efficient we are at making melatonin. What I will say is you do not want to take large doses of melatonin. You don't want to shut down the feedback loop and stop making your own by giving yourself a huge dose of melatonin. But most people are going to be fine to use a small dose, up to 3 milligrams. And generally you would take that. If you have trouble falling asleep, perhaps taking it 30 minutes before you want to fall asleep. Otherwise, if you're just looking for a deeper quality of sleep, you can take it right at bedtime. There's there's many different brands. I recommend a sustained release brand so that it's released a bit over the whole night rather than all at once. But 3 milligrams of melatonin at bedtime can be super helpful, even if you're already a decent sleeper, but when you wake up in the morning, you're not feeling quite rested. That may mean that you're not getting to the deeper levels of sleep, and melatonin can oftentimes help with that. So I do highly recommend it. And I think most of you that have been watching my videos have heard me say that the immunology experts out there are actually recommending melatonin for everybody right now as a part of the regimen for immune health during this viral crisis. So if you have never tried melatonin, try it. It's not going to hurt you. And you may find that it gives you some of the best sleep that you've ever had. Magnesium. This is something that we should, it's such an important nutrient for the body, but yet most of us are deficient. And the reason is because it's not as abundant in the soil, therefore not as abundant in our food supply. And so many of us don't get ample amounts of magnesium any longer in our diets. And so many of us are needing to, I would say probably all of us, are needing to supplement magnesium. One way I really like to use magnesium is at bedtime. So magnesium is a great relaxer for the nervous system, for the musculoskeletal system. And it does many things. It can help with digestion and elimination, and really help with sleep at night. So I recommend that there's a particular brand I really like. You can get it over the counter in most health food stores. You can order it online. You can certainly order it online through us, but it's called Calm. It's a powdered magnesium. And I have my patients use 2 teaspoons in water at bedtime. So you take your melatonin, you do your sleep meditation, you have your little fat protein snack, and you do your magnesium. And that's a great recipe for not only getting yourself to sleep more efficiently, but certainly maintaining sleep and the deeper levels of sleep, throughout the night. So the dosage of melatonin, someone's asking if the dosage of melatonin is the same for sleep and immune support. Not necessarily. There's a lot of thought, discussion, science, and ongoing research on melatonin. It's being looked at as something to be used in cancer treatment. It can be helpful for people who have digestive diseases, and that's all different doses, and sometimes even taking melatonin during the day. So I'm not talking about treatment using melatonin or large doses. There are times and reasons why a person might do that. I'm talking really more in this segment anyway about melatonin's usefulness in sleep and deepening levels of sleep. However, when you do look at the current immunology recommendations, they're not recommending more than 3 to 4 milligrams of melatonin at bedtime. So they're still not talking about the much larger doses that you might have seen or heard about in other related to other subjects. So my comfort level, especially when I'm speaking to a broad audience, is 3 milligrams at bedtime. And in this context, we're talking about it in terms of what it could do for your sleep, which honestly, I feel like melatonin's support to the immune system. Yes, it's an antioxidant. Yes, it's anti-inflammatory. But truly, in this instance, if it supports better sleep, sleep is like one of those most important things we can do for our immune health. So that's the way I would kind of look at melatonin in this context. So thank you for the question. So let's review. Number 1, I said there were 5 things that you needed to know, and you need to know them now, because if you're going to be working on your immune health or really just optimizing your health in general, sleep, in my book, there's 5 things that are so important with health optimization. Sleep is at the top of that list. Stress response management is not even number 2 on my list. It's like 1.1. That's your meditation, biofeedback. I'll do a big segment on that soon. Number 3 would be movement, exercise. My partner and affiliate, Michelle from Emerge Mobile Training, who we work with to go out to the homes of our clients and help them get themselves in shape, is on here today asking some questions. And exercise and movement of the body, so critically important, has to be done daily in some form or fashion. I promise I'll do a segment on that as well. And then diet, nutrition. I mean, that kind of goes without saying, and most of you already know that, but here's what's interesting. That usually is the one that we pick to start with. And the reality is that exercise, stress response management, sleep are actually above that on my list. They're all important, don't get me wrong, but if you don't deal with your sleep and you don't deal with your stress and you don't move your body, your beautiful clean diet is going to be, minimally effective for you. So all of these things need to be done together. And then the 5th thing on my list is really support. That's really where supplement treatment, things like using melatonin and magnesium and some of the other nutrients I've discussed for immune health kind of come into play. But when it comes to sleep, the 5 things you need to do are prep and plan. So look ahead and figure out, what time do I have to get up? And then back into that with 8 hours of time for sleep, and then 45 minutes or an hour for prep for your sleep hygiene. So prep and plan. Sleep hygiene, that lasts 45 minutes to an hour. Turn off your electronics, turn off your television, do things that really start to calm your nervous system so that you can prepare for a good night's rest. Factor in the amount of time. Again, I said 8 hours is optimal. Make sure that your environment is cool, dark, and quiet. And then do some things for yourself at night as you're getting into bed that can help you get to sleep quicker and sleep more deeply. Try, up to 3 milligrams of melatonin, do sleep meditation, try a very small fat protein snack like a tablespoon of almond butter at bedtime. Use a couple of teaspoons of powdered magnesium in water. So lots of things you can do. Here's my challenge to all of you. Do these things consistently for the next 7 days. At that point, if you are still struggling with falling asleep, staying asleep, or feeling rested when you wake up, then that's the time to reach out. I'm happy to, consult with you to figure out what other factors, perhaps there's some hormonal imbalances, adrenal hormones, cortisol, or sex hormones are out of balance. There's probably some other issue that we might need to address, and I can help you with that. But honestly, for many of you, if you were just to really diligently do these things that I'm recommending, you'll be amazed at how quickly you could fix that dysregulated sleeping waking cycle. So Trevor asked again, what about supplements for stress response? Any recommendations? Absolutely. Cortisol management is so important when it comes to sleep. And as I said, many of us have a real dysregulation in that hormone. It's made in our adrenal glands, and it's a stress hormone. And I don't know about you, but I'm stressed. And, most of the stress in our lives, we don't have control over. So what can we do about that? Well, number one, you need to have a daily routine in place for managing that, something like meditation, biofeedback, not just at night for sleep, but really during the day. And I'll do a whole segment on that coming up. But there are some things that you can do to support that balance, that adrenal hormonal balance, using products. I use combination adrenal support products that have things in them like adaptogen herbs, ashwagandha, holy basil, rhodiola is a good one. And they're just adaptogens. They help to balance. So what we're looking to do is balance that circadian rhythm. And they're certainly, you can reach out to me. I use high grade, medical grade, nutraceutical quality products. And we have a system in place for you to be able to order those kinds of things online. It's shipped directly to you, and the pricing is very competitive. So I would say using, especially if you're somebody who struggles with a good sleeping waking cycle, having some type of stress response management, nutrient support on a daily basis could be helpful. Do I have a particular app I prefer for sleep meditation? Yes, there are. There's lots of apps, but the one that I have to, honestly, the one that I use, and I use that almost nightly, is an app called Insight Timer. And back in the day when I first downloaded it, it was just a timer. I do transcendental meditation as my preferred form of meditation during the day. And it's a 20-minute sitting, and I needed a timer because sometimes it would run over. And so I wanted a timer. I downloaded this, and over the years, it's become a full-blown, amazing meditation app, and it's inexpensive. I think it's like $14 or something for a year. But it gives you the timer. It gives you all kinds of great meditations and classes and courses, but it also has some of the best sleep meditations that I've seen. I particularly like the Yoga Nidra, means nighttime yoga, which is all done in your brain, by Jennifer Piercy is my favorite. But there's some other great apps out there. Calm is probably one of the most well-known. Headspace is another one. 10% Happier, Mindfulness by Sam Harris. So there's some really great ones. I think most of them will give you a bit of a free trial. Download some and try them. You need to find the one that resonates the best with you. But Insight Timer is my favorite app. And, they've got a whole section of sleep-specific meditations. So if I'm at the end of my question list, if you've got any other questions, chime in. Otherwise, thank you all for tuning in. This Q&A happens every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific. And watch my Instagram and Facebook pages and the YouTube channel for announcements on what the next topic is. But if there's something that you want to hear about, please, reach out to me offline. I've given you all that contact information on the front end of this video, and let me know if there's something you would like to know more about. I would love to give you the education that you're looking for. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.